Hi, this is Sniz with Bloodbane. I am from World 11, although these tests are being done on World 10. Today is August 20th. It's been about a week since I've done my last video log. Been pretty busy in real life, barely keeping up on my queues. Thought I'd kind of cover quickly what I did with this town and then go over some of the mechanics and military stuff. The first thing is I want to kind of a disclaimer on this server. I'm nowhere near on top of my queues. I'm certainly not doing things the right way. In fact, I'm dramatically harming my long-term possibility of being a good endgame player by doing these tests. So I'm not necessarily saying this is what you do. I'm using this as basically to go over the mechanics of how things at least should be and how things function. So anyway, what I've done is on this server, somewhere around World 7 or 8, I built this city. I had this as a resource city. Somewhere when I had 7 or 8 cities, I decided to go ahead and start converting this over to a military city. What I should have done is I should have started to destroy resource nodes, put a bunch of cottages out here, get my construction speed at least over 2,000, possibly closer to 3,000, and then started laying down all these, filling in my military units. Just to cover the mechanics of how these work, each training ground reduces the construction speed or recruitment speed of rangers and berserkers, which is kind of the army style I'm going with this city, by a percentage. Each training grounds accumulates that percentage, as well as each adjacent barracks to a training grounds accumulates a higher percentage. So this basic configuration, similar to how you would with a resource city, with a row of base military units surrounded by barracks. The barracks are building army size as well as production speed. So ultimately, with the types of units that you're using, you'd want to get them down to 1 second queue times. Right now I'm pumping out a berserker every 8 seconds and a ranger every 10 seconds. So getting fairly close on this one. But like I said, if I were to do this right, I would have had the construction speed up. Certainly wouldn't be doing it as sloppy as I'm doing it here, but I got it, I don't know, I just kind of wanted to get this going. It's mostly a test. I'm not necessarily trying to do it right. It was also an assessment of I didn't really have any powerful castles nearby. I am on a waterway, which is a bad idea for a weak castle. But I'm also trying to pick a fight, so I'm waiting to get attacked. I kind of want to get attacked. I do want to get attacked so I can see the defensive side, but all I've done so far is be a bully, which I'll be going into some of those reports later. But anyway, that's the basics of a military city. The thing that I want to cover is as far as what you should do. You should have more built than I have built here. The construction speed should be higher. These walls should be fully upgraded. These towers should be fully upgraded. I should have a massive army in this, based in this city, and then I should also have at least one other city with a significant army with a support assigned as support, at the very least, before I castle. So castling when I did, which was way earlier than now, and I'm not even where I should be yet, was just not necessarily an error. I knew what I was doing, but it's certainly a bad idea in terms of what to do. And this over here, by the way, again, just because I was kind of impatient to get these tests going, I kind of built around my existing structure back when this was a resource city, so this is kind of lame to have at this stage of the castle development, but oh well, it's just a test. So anyway, what I'm doing here is just kind of trying to get, as far as the building, I'm trying to keep pumping out. I'm now building some cottages to get the construction speed up higher, because now that I've at least got an army out there doing their thing, I'm going to go ahead and try to get my construction speed up so I can at least complete this project and get a really powerful castle faster. So I'm building cottages now, and I'm building more barracks and destroying existing resources. One thing I want to cover really quick is as far as something that's, it hasn't shifted yet, but it's something that I've said before that is going to be changing in the near future. Back when we were raiding dungeons levels 2, 3, even 4, I was saying that the last thing you want to do is even bother with any military cities. Build resource cities only, and then later convert them to your military cities. Basically, a fully developed, full-leveled resource city produces more in a week in resources than it takes than it costs to half of what it costs to build it. So it's better to, let's say, for a 3-week period of time, to have a resource city sitting there pumping out resources for 3 or 4 weeks and then convert it to a military city, rather than having a military city with a ton of troops just sitting there eating food, or a bunch of buildings that could produce troops super fast but then not producing them. So back at that time, and even still today, I still say resource cities only. But there's a couple of changes coming to that. First of all, I posted about the Continental Defense Force. There's a couple of people who are getting close to ready to, castle and to do a little bit of early stuff. Now this is early castling, but it's very strategically it's a little little process we're going to be going through. So then the other thing that's going to slightly change that is, as higher level dungeons become available, this will reach a point where a military city that's not castled, and it's important to remember again that everything could be fully upgraded before I ever turn that castle on. So you're not castled, but you could build a military city with all those troops, and if level 7-8 dungeons are available, which they aren't yet, but as they become available, somewhere in that, I think 7-8 range, your military city can be as effective as a resource city, and as they become higher level, even more so. When you have large number of troops out there raiding full-time. 5 raids of 2,000 soldiers each, 3,000 soldiers each, are actually bringing back to the city as much resources as a resource city would produce. So at some point, that'll be a very effective method, assuming that dungeons continue to rise in level and continue to be reasonably available in reasonable proximity to these cities. So at some point in the near future, it may start to make sense to build military cities that aren't castled but later will be castled, in the meantime can produce a lot of resources through raiding. But I don't think we're quite there yet. And the other thing is, I don't think that's a good idea until you have at least 7, 8, maybe closer to 10 res cities going. I'm going to pause here and come back to it. Alright, so had a call come in there. I'm not going to bother editing or whatever. I'm just going to just pause and I'll just keep going here. So anyway, that's kind of just some of the thoughts about when to build military cities and whatnot. I still think the vast majority of our members should be building resource cities only. A couple people who may be interested in joining me on some early excursions on our continent may consider building a military city for the purposes of castling. And as higher level dungeons become available, it may start to make sense to start building military cities to farm through raiding. One thing to understand, though, just I'll mention, is though it's a great source of gold and probably will continue to be for some time, the percentage of gold you get versus resources start to go down dramatically as you get into higher level raids. So it does not mean that when you get into level 7, 8 level dungeons, it's going to be this massive source of gold for you. It'll continue to produce gold in a significant amount, but in terms of proportionally how much gold is going to be produced from raiding, it is not later going to be a huge source of gold. It's going to be more resources, less gold through raiding. So anyway, that's where the city build is. I'm going to go ahead and come back to a part 2 and cover some of the results and methods as far as the actual raids and sieges I've done. So I'm going to stop this one here and be back for part 2 shortly.